Okay, it's 6 o'clock. We'll call the February 27th, 2024 regular meeting of the Mill Creek City Council to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilmember Paddock, please lead us. Adrian, roll call, please.
Mayor Holtzclaw,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Biennial, Councilmember Cavallari,
Here.
Councilmember Steckler, Councilmember Allison,
Here.
Councilmember Duque,
Here.
and Councilmember Paddock.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem is under the weather, but she will be joining us for our executive session at the end of the meeting. Has anyone heard from Councilmember Steckler? I've not heard from anything from him, so let's hold off on a motion to excuse, because as far as I know, he will be here, so he must be caught in traffic. Audience communication. Anyone in the audience like to address the council? Go ahead, Dennis. Name and city of residence, please.
Good evening, Tannis Golebiewski, Mill Creek. I have two things. The first is on behalf of Girl Scouts of Western Washington, Service Unit 222. I wanted to say thank you to Mill Creek Youth Advisory Board members and Jackson High School Key Club members who helped us with our cookie delivery last week. We had almost 4,000 cases delivered. That's about 48,000 boxes of cookies that are coming out to your door and to the grocery stores. They helped us. We were on time, on schedule, ahead of schedule the whole day. So it was great. We had lots of volunteers, lots of current Girl Scouts who came out and lots of former Girl Scouts who came out. It was really exciting. They hadn't seen that side of it yet, so that was a lot of fun. So thank you to them, and thank you to the community for consistently being so supportive and so happy to see us when we get out there. If you haven't had a chance to buy cookies yet, they'll be at the grocery stores starting this Friday, March 1st. And we thank our many community partners for their willingness to let us set up shop outside their stores. We have girls, kindergartners selling for the first time, all the way through 12th graders selling for the last time, everybody in between. So they're excited to see you out there. It's not going to snow this weekend. So thank you again for that. And the second thing, as chair of the Parks and Recreation Board, I just wanted to let you all know and say thank you to staff that our signage project is complete, and you should see new signs at all the parks with consistent branding. The address of the park is listed on every sign or at every park. That was a problem that we had noted. People had tried to call 911 and didn't have an address to give, so it's a safety concern. So the signs are now consistently branded. Each one has the hours of the park correct, consistent, and the park rules are also there so that the community knows what they're allowed to do or not do while they're using our parks. So that was a project that took about 2 years to get to completion. So while you're out there at the parks, take a look and enjoy the new signage. And thank you to staff for making sure that got done. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Dennis. Anyone else in chambers? Anyone online? Seeing none, there'll be another opportunity at the end of the meeting. That brings us to our presentations. Martin, are you going to introduce Mr. Elwin?
Yeah, I'd like to introduce Greg Owen, the president of the chamber. Greg and I have had the opportunity to meet on a monthly basis and start to grow the relationship and the partnership between the chamber and Mill Creek as we embark on a lot of the projects that we would like the chamber to be a part of going forward. So, Greg, thanks.
Thank you very much. So good evening, Mayor and Council, and Martin, thank you very much. Basically, I've got a little bit of a PowerPoint that builds on the one that we presented to you last year, kind of an update of where we're at and what we've got going on. And then we'll have an opportunity to answer questions. And so I'll just kind of roll through this and get going. So hot news, this is our first thing. Our membership growth has been absolutely incredible. As you'll see up there, it says February 2024, 130 members. Well, that was Friday. Today's Tuesday, we have 132 members. The folks at La Palmera and Frost Donuts joined the chamber today. And so it's really cool, especially with La Palmera, and we'll talk a little bit about it later, but it's the 20th year of Town Center, and they were the first business in town. So it's kind of cool. That's 91% growth in just over 13 months. And the other big hot news right now that we're in the middle of a merger between the Chamber of Commerce and the Town Center Business Association. And those two organizations had existed kind of in parallel over the years, and it seemed like the right thing to do to bring everybody together. And so we've been working hard to make that all happen. There it is. Town Center is turning 20. La Palmera was that first business to open. With that kind of event and the merger of these two organizations, we've been working as a board and as an organization to kind of create this Mill Creek Summer. And, Chamber's done the festivals and Town Center's done the concerts, and we have all these things that go on. Well, we want to create this energy around the Mill Creek Summer, right? And all the things that go on with festivals and golf tournaments and concerts and arts walks and wine walks and all these kinds of things. And figure that since this is the 20th year of Town Center, what a great time to start that this year. This year, the Chamber and Golf Tournament have surpassed $100,000 in charitable donations and grants in the 6 years that the golf tournament's been in existence. And each year we donate and give grants to youth organizations for youth athletics, youth academics programs, and family support groups in the community, different organizations that help our kids. And over $100,000 is just incredible. We're really proud of that. We're also working on adding some sort of an event this summer at the farm. And, we've got parades and festivals and things that happen here on Main Street and downtown. We want to come up with something that we can utilize their space that they have. That space was designed in part to host festivals or events or things like that. So we want to take advantage of that, get those member businesses out there involved in who knows what it's going to be. We've talked about car shows and we've talked about beer and food fests and we've talked about all kinds of different ideas, but some sort of activity that we can rest somewhere in between the festival and the golf tournament, right? Late July, early August, that we can start getting some business and interest and buzz out at the farm. And we're also looking on how we can better partner with the city at city-sponsored events during the summertime too, because the city has Party in the Parks and Coffee with a Cop and things like that. That's part of the Mill Creek Summer. So we want to bring all of that stuff together. Oh, and there's more. The Chamber has settled into our office and one of the first significant partnership things that we did with the city was to get office space. And so we're now pretty much settled in. It's an office of volunteer and employees. And so we're constantly evolving and figuring things out. But if you haven't had a chance to come upstairs at City Hall North, come by, stop in. Jeff's there, for many hours each day, just about, and come on in, check it out, see what we got going on. We've been having our membership meetings in room 201, which is the classroom that's set up over there. We had 48 people at our last week's meeting, which meant we had to bring extra tables and chairs into the room. So as we continue this kind of pattern we're on, what's next? We might have to find a bigger space to land. A little bit about our membership. We've got, as a reminder, we talked about this a little bit, 4 membership levels. These are just updated numbers. The red with the line is what we talked about last year, and the yellow numbers are the current numbers, and that's now 132. So just a little update from where we've been, a visual on that growth. Anybody here that wants to scan a QR code, feel free, because I put it up there so you can all scan it. Scan away, have fun with it, but that's how we get people to join. Oh, I meant to mention, and to echo something Tannis said, it will not snow. It will not snow. It will not snow. Please say it with me. So. A little bit of our civic involvement engagement. As Martin mentioned, we're on a regular schedule to meet at least monthly so we can keep abreast of what the Chamber's doing and what the city are working on. The Chamber is obviously interested in some of the projects that the city's working on, your comp plans and the DRCC and the 1961 project. Our members are very interested in obviously those things because it has everything to do with business development and growth of the community, which are the things that we want more than anything else as a Chamber of Commerce, is to see that happen. So we are looking forward to participating in whatever level we can in an advisory role, in intelligence and information gathering role of what's going on with your businesses in your community, and be able to provide that kind of support the best we can. And we're also working on trying to come up with a good way to present to work with the city, to present the state of the city, right? A lot of cities do a lot of different things with their state of the city. And I know that there was some video work done for last year's project. And, you know, is there a good way? Can we find a place somewhere where we can get as many people as possible together? Not just at a chamber meeting, not just at a council meeting, but someplace out there in the community where we can get folks together and talk about what's going on in the city and provide that update. And if we can partner with that and come up with a way to work that out, we'd really like to help out with that. Just briefly, I'm going to talk about our committees that exist. We've got a community outreach committee, and I did this alphabetically. So anybody that's like, hey, how come my committee's last? Is because it's last in the alphabet. I just know the people that I work with. So I alphabetize this. Our community outreach committee is primarily our golf tournament committee. That's the one that provides the grants and donations as a result of the organization of the golf tournament. And I want to just briefly recognize Chief White. I think that the golf tournament committee started with a couple of guys sitting around going, gosh, it would be cool if we could help people get shoes or cleats and get out and play some ball or do something like that. And that idea, that's what spawned this whole golf tournament thing. And so that's what that committee does primarily, plans that golf tournament and then goes through and grants money. The festival committee is exactly what it is. We're working hard. We've had a couple meetings already for the festival, and we've had city staff at those meetings so we can make sure that we can put on the best festival ever, and it really is going to be, but there's no finish line there. So 2024 is the best so far. Then we're going to work on 25 being even better. And coming up here, we missed a year with COVID, so it's going to be 2026 will be the 25th Mill Creek Festival. So we've got that coming in the future. Our government relations committee, Councilmember Duque is the chair of that committee. And really that's how can the chamber leverage our relationship with government, and vice versa. How can the government leverage relationships with the chamber to come up with things, ideas, thoughts, discussions on what we can do to improve business and encourage growth and development in the business area. Our marketing committee is really one of the things we're putting a lot of attention and effort on right now, because marketing is everything in this world, right? And content and videos. And that's why Jay's here tonight with his camera and collecting some things so we can really market the great things that the chamber's doing, the great partnerships that we have with the city and other organizations, and encourage basically growth and membership, right? Because that's what drives an organization, is the people that are in there. So we want to keep infusing with fresh perspectives. Our membership committee focuses on membership recruitment, retention, and then also benefits. So a project we're involved with right now is going through and making sure that if we say you're going to be a visionary member and these are the things that you're going to get, that you're really as a member going to get those things. And is there a better way, right? Do we need to change, revise those? So that's what's going on with them. Networking committee has really been a big deal as well. We've kicked off things like our coffee connections in the morning and our third Thursday networking events. We've continued with our Engage Mill Creek events. And so we're doing a lot with networking because that's what our members ask for, right? That's what the business members want, the business owners want, is they want to get together and build commerce, build business. Our operations committee is the one that's really putting all the work to get all of our lunch and learns together. It's a lot that goes into those Tuesday meetings with preparation and food and making sure they come off smooth and making sure I'm screwed up when I stand in front of the group. So great work there. Our scholarship committee, we're underway right now. Lindsay is our Lindsay Rucker's our scholarship committee chair. We're recruiting right now for applicants for the scholarships. We have $12,000 to give away in scholarships, which is what we did last year. And we're reaching out right now. This is the time. And probably it's late. We started late. We started way earlier than we ever have, and we're already late. So, but we're getting out there, and we're gonna do it. And then the town center committee is new. With the merger of the town center and the Chamber of Commerce, the town center is still an entity. It's going to dissolve as a legal entity, but it's an entity. It's still an organization, but it's going to be the town center committee as opposed to the town center business association. And essentially the current board members on the town center board will be the chair, will be that committee, and then we'll infuse that because we're bringing these things together, right? Concert series and festivals and golf tournaments and all that stuff's all coming under one umbrella. We want to make sure that we maintain all of the activities that have occurred in the town center and keep doing those things, but then try and do them better. Where we are headed, this is a slide from the last time I was here, and I just crossed out the things that where we're at. We blew our membership goal increase 20% out of the water. We have our office space. Thank you very much for your support on that. We're working really hard and continuing to keep our relationship with this city strong, but that's check. The fact that the city manager and I have an opportunity to meet on a monthly basis just is evidence of that. Formalize our procedures related to our pillars. We talked a little bit about, you know, those pillars that hold up an organization. That's in progress because it's always going to be in progress. Well, there's no finish line on something like that. We're always going to be reviewing how we do and what we do it. And then identify areas where we can improve our service delivery and services to our members in our community. Again, ongoing and never ending. So we'll continue to work on those things. And we've got a great board that's committed to continuous improvement. So we're going to be doing really well. Chamber staff, if you care, Jeff's our employee, and he's the one that really holds the thing together, because the rest of us are just, you know, we volunteer to be on the board, and we come up with about 1,000 different great ideas that he has to try and corral and herd. So kudos to him. Shelley's not here. Shelley became our vice president when Stephanie McQuarrie moved out of town and moved to her next phase of life. So Shelley was chosen by the board to be vice president. Sierra was a board member. Sierra's a manager at People's Bank. So she was chosen by the board to be the chamber secretary. Bill's been around forever and probably will be around forever. But you see all the board members at large list up there, and there are names that you recognize or may have seen before, but there are also names up there you're like, cool, new people. Maybe I know who they are, and maybe I don't. Shane Somerville, the last person on that list right now. Shane is the current president of the Town Center Business Association, and during the merger, she became a board member for us. Questions? Email Jeff, because if you email me, I'm just going to ask Jeff. Take the middleman right out. And that's it. So I'm happy to answer any questions or discuss any of those points at all.
Thank you, Greg. Questions? No questions?
Great job. Great job.
All right.
Maybe just a comment.
Even
Yeah,
better.
go ahead, Councilmember Cavalieri.
Yes, sir.
Good presentation, Greg. I'm really excited to see how the chamber has just taken off. That's pretty substantial growth. I mean, has the space here at City Hall, has that really kind of given you kind of a footing to build off and build out of?
Yeah, I would say 100% that having a home, as we go through all this transition and growth, having a home where we can work out of, where people can come to and meet, and it's been game changing for us, because we were essentially transients before that just would go wherever there was a space for us. And that's no way to build a good, strong organization. So we have a home, we have a place. And so, yeah, it's game changing.
Okay,
sure.
good job.
Thank you.
Jeff,
Appreciate
Lindsay, all of you guys, thank you so much.
that.
Do you have a list of the membership up on your website?
Yes. Yep. Jeff keeps that up to date. I don't know if LaPaw and there, see? Yes.
He's on top of
right
it.
there. Yep.
Any other questions, comments?
Quick question.
Yeah, Councilmember Paddock.
You mentioned the Growth Management Act and whatnot. What are you hearing from your members about opportunities for growth in this part of the city, other parts of the city? You getting any feedback?
It's kind of a pro-growth organization, right? Because it's good for business and businesses want to grow and develop. And so our members, it's reflective of that. There's lots to be said about traffic and populations and all those kinds of things. But at the end of the day, those things are good for business. And so being a commerce-driven business, focused organization, we like it. We like to see construction. We like to see development. We like to see moving and shaking because that's good for all of our business members.
Thank you. Sounds like we got to make sure that they get the survey out to all their
Yeah,
members.
absolutely. Yes.
Well,
Mr. President, you missed your opportunity. I know you're not into sales, but this is your opportunity to invite all of these folks to those 3 events that go on every month.
Yes, indeed.
So remind them again.
Yes, indeed. That's a fantastic. Now, see, I invited Martin, but he was out of town. See, hanging out with state people. I'm not sure what was going on, but we have, so there's 4 events, right? We do our lunch and learns every third Tuesday of each month. And those are right next door upstairs. We'll try and have enough food this time because we ran out of food last time. We do our third Thursdays, which is the third Thursday of the month. It's always that. Exactly.
funny how that works.
Trust me, people have asked, when is that next third Thursday coming? And we do those at various locations. Our next third Thursday is at Good Brewing and Barrel House on Bothell Everett Highway and 180th-ish. Our last one was at Brooklyn Burroughs Pizza. So we go to various organizations that have beer and food, right? Basically, that's what it is. Something cold to drink and some good food. So Good Brewing is coming next, and then we'll go from there. We do our coffee connections, which are the second Tuesday of each month. And those, third Thursday is 4:30 to 6:30? Technically, as of late, it's been 5 to 6:30. 5 to 6:30. And then the coffee connections are in the morning, 8 to 9:30. And we're next. Windermere Real Estate up here on Main Street, coming up on that second Tuesday, whatever that date is. And then the Engage Mill Creek is something that we just had our 1-year anniversary of Engage Mill Creek. And it's similar in nature to the third Thursday, but it's focused a lot on recruitment of new members, right? Bringing new members in, where the third Thursday is recognition of our current members and recognition of area businesses. The Engage event, where are we at next? Rustic Cork at the Farm, and that's the first Wednesday of the month. See, I can't keep it all straight. So we'll be at Rustic Cork, and that is 5 to 7. 4:30 to 6. See, I can't keep 4:30. I knew one of them was 4:30 to 6:30. And so at each of these events, we would love to have all of you come to any or all of those. You're welcome and invited to every single one of them. Some of them we'll buy a little food, and some of them we won't. Just depends on the Engage. We always buy a little bit of food, and so. And these are all growing events. Engage is great because we've been doing it for a year. Third Thursday, this is our third Thursday or something like that. So it's fairly new. The coffee connections. Our last coffee connection was at Expedia Cruise Centers just a couple of weeks ago, and there were 42 people that came through that. And at one point, I think they were all there at the same time because that was elbow to elbow in there. So yeah, thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. But yes, please do come to any and all of those.
Thank you, Greg. Look forward to the state of the city in a couple months.
Absolutely.
See what we can pull together.
We'll have fun. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you all.
Okay. Martin, are you gonna kick off the new business?
Well, next item is ordinance related to the 2023-24 biennial budget amending salary ranges for the non-represented and AFSCME union employees. So,
Thank you, City Manager Yamamoto. Mayor, good evening, council members, staff, and to the audience joining us here in council chambers, as well as those joining us virtually. So you may have heard that the region's employment market has remained competitive, highly competitive, and the city has experienced a lot of challenges filling the vacancies that we have. And so our goal has always been to attract qualified and experienced applicants, as well as to retain them so that the city could provide the standard level of service afforded to our community, as well as so that we could accomplish all our the priorities that the council have set for us. Now, in order to do this, staff has always recommended that the salary schedule be adjusted so that we could compete with the 10 of our top competitors in the region within the 30-mile radius in Snohomish County, as well as North King County. And so accordingly, in February, at the February 6th meeting, council approved a 4-year collective bargaining agreement with AFSCME, which included a cost of living adjustment for the next 4 years, with 5% effective in beginning January of 2024. And as well as adjusting one of the positions, the maintenance worker position, one range higher. And so consistent with that, historically, council has been granting the non-represented employees with the same cost of living adjustment. And so we are recommending that the unrepresented employees will get a 5% cost of living adjustment effective January of 2024. As well as adjusting one, we have a maintenance aid worker in that classification, and we're also adjusting them one range higher from an AD to an AC. And so before the proposed motion, this action will not require any budget modification or additional budget appropriation. We have sufficient funds to cover any of that impact to our financials. And so the proposed motion, Mayor, is up on the screen. So we are proposing that council adopt an ordinance modifying the 2023-2024 biannual budget to amend the salary ranges in the pay plan for non-represented and AFSCME represented employees and establishing an effective date.
Thank you, Irmina. Are there any questions on the presentation? You have a question? Councilmember Cavalier?
Thanks, Mayor. So Irmina, where does this, with this new contract and the reevaluation of the positions that we've done over these last couple of years, where does that place us as far as a pecking order of the regions that you mentioned earlier, as far as competitiveness?
I think we're in the mid-range for any positions within the 10 cities or among the 10 cities.
It really varies per position, but overall we are middle to middle upper range.
Okay, which is a far cry from where we were before. Okay. Thank you.
Other questions?
Mayor, I'll make a motion.
Please do.
Motion to adopt an ordinance modifying the 23-24 biennium budget to amend the salary ranges in the pay plan for non-represented and AFSCME represented employees and establish an effective date.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes 6-0 to 1 with an asterisk for the 7th vote. 6-0. 6-0.5, maybe a quarter. Okay, I think Irmina, you will roll right into your next presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. One moment. Can everybody See. Yeah, thank you. All right. Thank you. I am pleased to present the financial report for December 31 of 2023, as well as our Q4 2023 investment report. So just reviewing the economic conditions in December, this graph shows the consumer price index, both for the national US average, the US national average, as well as the Seattle metro area. So the blue line represents the national average, the orange represents the Seattle metro area. And during December of 2023, the US average remained at 3.4%, whereas Seattle metro is still trending higher at 4.4%. The national average, that increase is mostly attributed to all items except all items less food and energy, which increased by 3.9%. A majority of that is primarily from shelter. Our next indicator is the federal funds rate, which is really the cost of money. And as of December 31 of 2023, the federal open market maintained the rate at 5.25% to 5.5%. And this is because inflation remains elevated. And as a result, they opted to maintain the federal funds rate at this rate. Now, because of this, the housing construction remains slow during the quarter. And then the Seattle home prices are now at 1.5% below the prices a year ago. And I also confirmed that the January 31, 2024 rates that the federal market, they voted on at the end of the month, they maintained it again at 5.5%. All right. And moving on to the general fund. So overall, our general fund resources increased by 1.6 million. This is a factor of two things. One is the revenue collection. We exceeded it by 575,000, and we have expenditure savings of about 1 million. The benchmark through the end of December is 50%. And the revenues that we collected total $12.5 million. That is 52.4% of the adjusted budget. And this is primarily from the intergovernmental revenues, as well as from our miscellaneous revenue and our interfund transfers. Recall that the intergovernmental revenues are the grants that we receive relating to the comp plan, as well as for the middle housing grants. And then under the miscellaneous revenue, in here, this includes 434,000 in interest alone. And that's because if I go back a few slides, this one shows that from January of 2023 through the end of December, our the federal funds rate are at 4.75 to 5.5. So it's a higher range of interest at that time. And our LGIP investments usually tracked the federal funds rate. Now, compared that with what we earned in 2022, we only earned 139,000 in general fund interest. And that's because during January of 2022 through December of 2022, the federal funds rate were 0.25%. And then after about 4.5. Oops, sorry. And then the transfers in, you may recall that during mid-buy, we recommended that the ARPA interest be transferred over. And so this represents that transfers that were earned, or excuse me, the interest that were earned from 2022 and then 2023. Are there any questions? Okay. Our sales tax also is a little bit over collected. And then this slide is part of the report that is on stamp page 51 of 116. This is the graph that is at the bottom of the page. And I wanted to share this with you because I think it's an indicator of two things. One, of economic growth within the city, as well as the leakage that we're seeing. So year over year for the last 3 years, the total sales tax collection that we have are showing here at the bottom. We had collected $3.9 million in 2021, 4 million in 2022, 4.1 million in 2023. And between 2022 to 2023, that's about a 2.8% increase only. And compared that with a CPI, it's about 4.4. So that growth in our sales tax is just slightly maybe a combination of inflation as well as some of the businesses that are coming or opening in the city. The first bar that you're seeing in every year is the collection from the city of Mill Creek. The next bar that you're seeing in the middle are the collections that we get outside the city limits of Mill Creek, but within the Washington state. And then the last bar are the collections from out of state. And you can see year over year, just with the city of Mill Creek, we've increased collections from 434,000 in 2021 to 484,000 in 2022 and 541,000 in 2023. Majority of the year over year increases within the city of Mill Creek. Majority of that is in the category of accommodations and food services. About 85% of that is coming from there, and the remaining is from retail trade. And then our in-state collections decreased in 2022 from 1.6 million to 1.6 million. So that's about, I want to say, $100,000 decrease, but it went back again in 2023. Our out-of-state remained almost the same, not a lot of growth there. So that's steady. And I think it's good news to hear that the collections in the city of Mill Creek has been steadily growing. All right. Now for the general fund expenditures. As of December 31, we've spent a total of 10.9 million in expenditures, and 62% of that are from personnel, and that is from wages of about 4.5 million, overtime, and benefits. And then we also have our M&O, which is 35%, and that includes the professional services and supplies, and a little bit of capital investment here. This capital outlay is really the general fund transfer into the equipment replacement fund. The 10.9 million is only about 45.7% of our budget. And that's where the $1 million savings is coming from. And majority of that savings is traced to the personnel. Recall that during the mid-buy and up to now, we had about an average of 8 vacancies in 2023. About 5 of that are from the police officer vacancies, and then we have 2 engineering positions that were vacant about 75% of the year, and then a little bit of turnover with the other positions. But the salary savings that we have here, we were projecting that not to cover the certain increases in some of our M&O and some of in our contracts, particularly the jail. And also now the projections that I used, or the estimate that I used during the mid-buy specifically for insurance is not enough. We are $85,000 short on that. So that $1 million in savings that we have in the personnel will not be expected to pay for the police guild retro. That again, we are advising council that we may have to go back to you for a budget amendment when that comes through. All right, now this is again still the general fund expenditures, but this one shows it to you by department. Most of the departments are below the benchmark, the 50% benchmark, except for information technology. It's at 61.1%. And human resources at 52.8%. Now recall too that the information technology, the reason why it's it looks overspent is that we usually pay our software licenses 12 months ahead of time. And so this 510,000 that you're seeing in here includes the prepayment of the a couple or several of our software licenses, for instance, our Springbrook, our Zoom licenses, and the the virtual support systems that we have. Now, under human resources, they look exceeding budget primarily because of legal cost. So the cost related to any of the union negotiations and any other human resource employee issues are hitting this department. All right. Now, on our citywide legal cost, our December 2023 numbers, we are 932,000. And that's about 57.9% of our annual budget. However, this 932 includes about 24,000 of ARPA related expenses for the police and our personnel policy review. But compared to 2023, we are trending below the number. All right.
Can we just stop for a minute?
Sure.
Yay. Okay, go on.
Okay. Now for our special revenue funds, nothing significant other than I wanted to share that you approve the creation of the opioid settlement fund. And after you approved that, we created or we drew down on the first settlement years 1 to 3. That's about $30,000. We have that now. We received that. But subsequent event to since then, we've heard from the national distributor that Amerisource, now called Cencora, they've opted to prepay year 7 of their settlement. And so they're saving about $90 million. Of the $208 million that they're prepaying, the city of Mill Creek will only receive $5,600, under $5,600. And that's, we're expecting to receive that next month. And then moving on to our capital projects fund. Again, nothing new, nothing major, except that I wanted to share that our REIT revenues, which is part of this $1.3 million here, we've received so far about $1 million, and that's about 60% of the adjusted budget. Okay. Are there any questions before I move on to investments? All right. So Q4 of our investment, the city of Mill Creek has about $41.8 million in our investment, and that is 88% invested in LGIP. And then we have a little bit of our portfolio in U.S. Treasuries and U.S. agency obligations with a par value in total of $5 million. Year-to-date earnings from our LGIP is $1.7 million, and that's about an average of 5.10% in rate through the year compared to 1.66% in 2022. And then our U.S. Treasury bonds that we're holding, this 116,000 is an average of 2.33% through the year compared to 1.5% in 2022. The LGIP interest that we earned of $1.7 million was reinvested into LGIP. The $116,000 that we have from our bonds that we're holding, that usually gets transmitted to our U.S. bank account, to our Bank of America account to pay for our operations.
Okay. Can I give you your second? Yay! $1.9 million in interest. Thank you. Okay. And then for our activities for Q4, we have one maturity, which is the former MAC, the par value of which is $1 million. The coupon of that was 0.45%. And that matured in December.
And so then we turned around and made a purchase for a home loan bank. This is a callable bond with a coupon rate of 0.75. And because the coupon rate is cheap, we got it for a deal at 133,925. But when it matures or when it gets called, the year-to-date maturity would be about 4.45%. That concludes my report, Mayor. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Irmina. I have a bunch, but I'll let others go first. Councilmember Steckler.
I was making jokes, but I have to make this official comment. I haven't sat on the council as long as these two gentlemen to my left, but I remember when I first got here, the financial situation that our city was in. It was nowhere in the financial, close to where we are today with regards to reserves and how well we're being run financially. And you, the team, city manager, assistant city manager are to be commended. And many of the citizens don't really realize how good we are if they had not realized how tough things were almost 8 years ago when we didn't have the reserves we have and we're not run as well as we're being run right now. These financials are absolutely excellent. Just job well done to everybody and everyone on the team. I thank you for doing a really good job. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Steckler, but may I add something to that, Mayor?
Yeah.
So I went back to 2014, I believe. Just to make sure that I have the information, and I would like to share that with you. So I know that right now we are showing a surplus of about 10.6 million. So I just wanted to make sure that have we consistently, or is this the only year that we are showing this surplus? And so then I look back, and what I found was since 2014, so I only went back to 2014, the general fund reserve was about 6.1 million, and has stayed there above that level, actually, in fact, since then. But I found that we have a finance policy for general fund, specifically for the operating reserve, that requires that we set aside 15% of the ensuing biennium's projected revenue. And that would be, for now, that's about 3.6 million that we should have in reserve. Now, anything surplus of that, a third of that, we should be setting aside or transferring to the capital improvement fund. And the last time that happened, that was in 2016.
Yeah.
So since then, I think we have not been making that transfer. So we will have to consider that when we do the 25-26 biennial budget, or maybe earlier if we decide to make that in conjunction when we do the end of the year for 2025. Alternatively, council can opt to retain that surplus and use it for any one-time expenditure or operating expenditure or capital. So that's what's in the policy right now.
Councilmember Cavalieri.
Thanks, Mayor. And ditto on Councilmember Steckler's comments. You've done an excellent job, your whole team. Everybody has. I did have a question though. You mentioned regarding the opioid settlement, and if the settlement is prepaid, we receive a lesser amount. So I know if I try to prepay my mortgage, they're still getting all their money. So why isn't the city still getting all of its money if they're prepaying it?
I could argue that if I get it now, I could invest that and get more than what I would have gotten if I got the $90 million that they were saving. Because it will be, to me, it might be worth it. I don't know, it might be a good time to do it now and reinvest that. But then again, I don't know what the original distribution amount would have been, because the amount that I'm seeing that they were projecting includes not just the marriage-in, but it includes the other, because in that first settlement, there are 2 distributors and only one of them is prepaying. The other one is not. Well, the other one is prepaying, but they're prepaying a different state other than Washington State. But I couldn't tell really how much the difference is because of that. But I don't know. I think that was part of the settlement. When they signed it, that if they prepay right away, then they get a savings of this.
Okay.
Yeah.
That changes things.
That
Okay, all right,
changes
thank
things,
you.
yeah. And I think, if I recall that settlement agreement, they said that, the distributors, they only have 3 opportunities to prepay. And they selected year 7. Maybe that's the most expensive for them.
Thank you.
Councilmember Duque?
It's not a question. I was waiting for a comment part. Yeah, I was just going to say, I really appreciate having all of the information in part of our packet so that I have, the time to review it. I think not everyone knows that this is all available on the website when our agendas are put up. And so seeing that and be able to review it, especially for things like this that are, I know we're getting deeper and deeper now into the woods as we start figuring out what needs to happen for our next part. So I just appreciate everything you did here and of course, your time spent in going through it and answering our questions. So thank you.
Irmina, do you have, it's in our packet, there's a 52-page
Mhm.
document, and I'm looking at page 28, which is the breakdown of the sales tax.
Yes.
Do you have that?
By categories,
Yes.
I don't have that one.
Okay, I have a number of comments. The first one, great job. This is a great report. I'm glad you made the clarification you did because I've been meaning to say that for a couple of months. Before we get too excited about this level of the general fund balance, we have neglected to have the discussion on making the transfers that if we had made those would keep that general fund balance about where it has been, roughly 6 million or so, a little above that. The second comment I had was on the sales tax.
Mhm.
Because I was looking at the breakdown on page 28, so I was confused when you're going through your numbers and showing the increase, because the comment I wrote down when I was reviewing these on the plane a couple hours ago was if you look at the retail trade, which I assume is retail sales tax, that line item, it varies about $70,000 over the last 3 years. It's pretty much steady. Because the comment I wrote down is that retail sales tax number is both good news and bad news. The good news is it's steady. The bad news is it's steady. We're not showing the growth that I think we'd all like to see in our city with commerce, and that's why I'm glad tonight we're going over this when the chamber is here. The second goes back to the policies. One thing I advocated for that's included in that general fund reserve is the approximately, I forget the exact number, 900 or so thousand dollars in construction sales tax from the farm, which I advocated that we take that money and set it aside to capital projects directed to mitigate the impacts of the farm on that portion of the city. And I'd like to have that discussion this fall when we talk about the budget. Related to that is an issue I've been pushing or for consideration is, so our sales tax, construction sales tax last year was 517,000. I believe our sales tax is 10.6%. State gets 6.5 of that. I think our rate is 4.1. And then there's an extra 4.5. And there's an extra 10th. That's the police emergency services. My numbers right?
The transit gets a bunch of that, so we get 1.015, I think, isn't it?
Okay, so that 507, so that's even the overall tax that's collected is significantly larger than that because, we often hear the complaints about growth and that growth should pay for growth. If growth was truly paying for growth, in my opinion, the state would be letting us keep that state construction sales tax, which is generated by the growth, leaving it in our communities that we could use to mitigate the impacts, building parks, improving the roads that are impacted by growth. So that's a discussion that for the legislative committee for next session. I've had that discussion, we've thrown that idea out to other mayors. But I would like us to have that discussion in the context of our budget in the fall, that $517,000 was generated by growth. So should we be taking that and rather than pumping it into the general fund or leaving it in the general fund reserve, should that be used to apply to projects that can mitigate some of the growth issues that we hear so much about? So that was one other comment that for discussion this fall. And I'm trying to remember if I had other. Oh, the question, where are impact fees? What fund are those sitting in?
It depends. There are two.
We have traffic fees and park fees. right?
Yes, so one of them is going to the road improvement capital, which is a capital fund, 318, I want to say.
Okay,
And then the park one goes to 317. Which is the parks and trails. Yeah,
okay. We don't have to have this tonight, but I'd just be interested to see a breakdown of how much of those funds is coming from development, how much has been paid in impact fees. As opposed to, I assume some of that money comes from REIT going into that fund.
Mhm.
So I'd just be interested to know, so we see what is coming from the new development, in terms of the park fees and the traffic fees.
Mayor, just as a follow-up question,
Yeah.
Were you looking to see just 23-24 revenue?
No, because I think there's a bunch of money sitting there. I mean, I think we still have $1 million or so from Cam West from the development south of town that has never been expended. That's been sitting in our one of the funds. I'm just not sure which one. And I don't know, I don't recall off my top of my head what we've been using or if we've been using the traffic fees for specific improvements, because we do have an obligation under state law to spend those within, I think it's 10 years of them being collected. I think the park fee is a little different with Cam West because that was a private agreement. That was, so we may have more leeway on that, but I'd just be interested to see what that breakdown is.
Okay.
But those are, I think the biggest point I had is I'd like to have discussion in the fall with the council and staff about construction sales tax and what we do with it and whether we should dedicate that towards projects that could mitigate the impacts of development, since we hear so much about that from our constituents. But overall, a great report. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Councilmember Paddock?
Irmina, would you mind pulling up that sales tax chart again?
Sure.
City, state, out of state? I thought this was where the mayor was gonna go.
Where as well?
Yeah, I just, for our business community that's in attendance, I think this is just such a great story to be able to tell that purchases that are made in the city businesses are growing by 10 points. Purchases that are made online or mail order, those younger folks, I'll explain what that is later, mail order and whatnot, haven't kept up with inflation. And to me, that's a great testimonial to what's happening in people shopping in the city and more businesses that are in the city. Again, I think that's a great story for us to be able to tell. And again, just ditto what everyone said about I think, purposeful and prudent financial management that the city has really undertaken. And, we've got some big spends that are coming forward. So we're doing a good job of feathering the nest, because that nest is gonna crack open here in a little bit with some things we need to spend some money on. So thank you for that.
Councilmember Steckler?
I just want to make a follow-up comment to Mayor, your comment about the retail numbers. One of the things that in our finance committee, we did see the detailed sheet that you're talking about, and did show that the sales tax collection in Mill Creek predominantly is driven by food and accommodation. And that is directly, I think, in relationship to the fact we've lost a lot of our retail stores and big retail stores. And we could leave this for the fall in our discussions, but I think if there's anything we can do from the city standpoint to help benefit or attract a retail trade to the city, that would be, I think, beneficial to us, because we've lost a lot of big retailers and small retailers in our city. We've gotten a lot more restaurants, and the good news is they're all full. It's kind of hard to get a table at one of our restaurants. But the numbers show it, people are coming to them, but if anything we could do to benefit, support, engage, entice local retailers to come to our city, or maybe chain retailers to come to our city, it would definitely benefit our retail tax collection as well as our citizens. So you brought up a good point. The numbers that we're getting from retail sales, I think we're seeing them come a lot from out of state, and probably even out of in-state, but out of the district. But I think a lot of them are coming from out of state and mail order.
Other questions, other comments? Okay, thank you, Irmina. Good report. Great report. I guess we're sticking
still
with
me.
you for one more item.
I'm sorry, it's still me. Thank you, Mayor. So this next item is the review of the 2025-2026 biennial budget calendar. Per section 6.2 of the Mill Creek Policies and Procedures, relating to the financial management policy, the city manager shall propose a combined biennium and capital development calendar at the first regular council meeting in March in the even years. We are a meeting early, but I think that's okay. We're proactive. The attached budget calendar that you're seeing up on the screen has been prepared based on certain revised Code of Washington requirements. And the schedule will provide sufficient time for council and staff to accomplish the city's budget process with opportunities for public input to produce a balanced 25-26 biennial budget. So staff is seeking feedback on the proposed calendar. And my apologies, the version that I submitted missed these two red items right here. But we'll correct that in the final council agenda item. But I wanted it to be shown up here. Thank you. And so last January, the council had the planning retreat, which set the goal for 2024 as well as the priorities for the next 2 years, 25-26. In March to April of 2024, council will be completing the long-term planning with 1961 Consulting. And around April and May, staff will be preparing the 23-24 estimates as well as the 25-26 projections for our operating funds. And our capital improvement work plan schedule, we will have a study session sometime late May for council to review that. In June of 2024, we are hoping to come back to council for a study session so you could provide us with final budget guidance and instructions for staff. By September 10, the city manager will present a 25-26 or I will present the city manager's 25-26 preliminary biennium budget package, as well as the preliminary 2030 capital improvement plan. In October, we will have 3 study sessions relating to, so we could have the budget workshops, as well as to discuss preliminary 2025 property tax levy and the 25-30 capital improvement plan. In October of 29, we will hold the first public hearing. Following that, in the second public hearing will be held right around November 5. Our goal is to have an adopted budget by November 12, with also an adoption of the 2025 property tax levy, as well as the 25-30 capital improvement plan. And finally, we will submit the property tax levy certification and resolutions to Snohomish County by November 29.
Any questions on the schedule? And intermixed in this, our comp plan and our strategic plan and other things. We'll have a busy year. Yes, we will. Any questions? None? Okay, thank you, Remy.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to our consent agenda this evening. Item A is approval of checks number 67062 through 67126 and ACH wire transfers in the amount of $260,976.70. The audit committee was Councilmember Cavalieri and myself. Were there any exceptions?
No exceptions.
No exceptions. Item B, payroll and benefit ACH payments in the amount of $227,758.39. Were there any exceptions?
No exceptions.
And city council meeting minutes of January 23rd and January 30th, 2024. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Oh, we only got 6 votes. We didn't get a half vote this time. Okay, city manager, city staff reports.
Thank you, Mayor. So we have a handful of reports. It's going to take a little bit of time, but just bear with us. We wanted to ultimately give you an update on the projects that we're working on. And but I'll start with staff update. We're proud to announce that we hired 3 new passport service customer service representatives. The names are Yemie Chen, Afia, I think Tonelli, and then Lisa Herb. And they've all started, so that now they're part of our team. The second update is I wanted to first acknowledge Barb Heidel, who brought a really good idea to us last year. Our new pilot Adopt a Street program. On the dais in front of you, you have a copy of some materials that kind of give you an idea of what that is. I believe you have the summary of what's going to be in the city highlights in March. In this program, we have, you'll see a map as well. So you see how extensive and what the work that Barb, with the support of the marketing team did to prepare for this, which will probably kick off in, I think, a number of weeks here. So it's pretty quick, which is the reason why I'm reporting on it today. Currently, I think there are quite a few areas on that map that you can see kind of, I'm not sure, I think they're going to go one by one, starting with the first area, number 1. Currently, this give you an idea of how many volunteers we have. Specifically for just the Adopt a Street, we have 10 to 12 volunteers right now, but Barb does have a list of 60 volunteers that we need to reach back out to, which is still part of our process. So we're looking to have more volunteers, and that includes even staff as well, which will handle some of these areas. And so we're happy to have that program moving forward. Another comment that I want to make too is last year, quite a few times I've had individuals, residents and community members reach out about ways that they can help the city contribute. And so this is one of those ways. So if any of you come across people who want to help out and help the city in any way, although it's not something they may prefer to do, this is really the first option. And maybe once we start getting a lot of volunteers, we kind of leverage this database to move them on to other types of city projects or committees. So that's my second report. Third one is I just wanted to mention that attached in the packet, you have the final version of our strategic planning retreat report. So that's for your information. The fourth item is in your packet as well, is a sample letter that would go to Senator Murray. The Washington Wild Foundation, or 501(c), which is based in Seattle, founded in 1979, sent Mayor and myself some email regarding signing up on this letter that would go to Senator Murray. And what it is relates to the U.S. Forest Service Legacy Roads and Trails Program. What they wanted to do is to support the allocation of $100 million in funding that would go into the 2025 year for use of a number of things. I'll probably give you an idea of kind of what that program entails. According to the U.S. Forest Service, the Legacy Roads and Trails Program is a remediation program authorized and funded in 2008. Its purpose is to work directly on urgent needs on road decommissioning, road and trail repair, maintenance, and removal of fish passage barriers. The program emphasizes where forest roads may be contributing to water quality problems in streams and water bodies that support threatened, endangered, and sensitive species or community water sources. So I'm not going to go into too much of the data on how many roads and trails there are and water areas, but this program was reinstated and permanently authorized through bipartisan infrastructure law. And it was defunded about 4 years ago. So there's about 4 billion in deferred maintenance that needs to happen across the state of Washington. So if there's no objections, we were going to go ahead and sign on this letter. And I think the deadline is tomorrow, the 28th. If there's any questions on anything, please stop me and I could answer any. So that's the fourth one. And the last time is our projects update. And if clerks could please upload the PowerPoint online, then the city engineer and myself can present on the projects. All right, so the purpose of this is really give council an update on where the projects are and give you some idea at what point in time across these projects that we might need input. And you hear? Okay, is that, can you hear? You can? Okay. So what we want to do is give you an update on the projects that Laurel presented on at the beginning of the year. And starting off with the high level ones, the strategic and key projects timeline. We'll cover all CIP projects and our city engineer will present those, and I'll just quickly go over the ARPA funded projects and the status on those as well. So as you recall, and I'll just spend a little bit of time just to recap and kind of emphasize what's really important on some of these. And we'll start off with 1961. You had some preliminary discussions with 1961 and Rob Fenty early on. And what's really important is that we define 3 elements that were key to what embodied Mill Creek. And those 3 were safe and clean, community, and well-maintained outdoors. And so I think these are the things that are really the underpinning of everything we work on going forward. And so I think these are really important to just kind of keep and resonate through your minds as we continue to work on projects. You have a copy that I sent you of the PowerPoint that has this information on there in more detail, so I won't go into detail on kind of what those 3 elements are, but those are the elements that we will optimize as we make decisions and priorities as we move forward. One of the things that came out of that was the visioning process that you had an opportunity to talk to our consultant about. And through that visioning process, there were 4 themes that came out of that. And those 4 themes you have to really pay attention to as we move forward, because those are really the foundation of what our decision-making on these projects moving forward. And I'll quickly kind of just go over those 4 themes. The first one is financial health and economic vitality. The second one is safe and clean. In Mill Creek, safe and clean go together. The third one is thriving, engaged, and connected community. And then the last one is well-maintained outdoors, public spaces, and infrastructure. That's one of the options that he gave us. I think he provides staff with 2 and probably you as well. I think the same ones. And I think we all kind of lean towards option 1. So the next step in the process is he'll work with us on all of you wordsmithing one of those options. So that visioning process is really important moving forward. The third piece of this is that in this process, we had to identify cities that we wanted to go tour. And through that process, Rob identified 4 themes, identified which cities that we were going to visit. The themes that came about were walkability, safety, business, and proactive and responsive. A little bit about proactive and responsive. So he picked cities that he felt, and that council felt that were proactive in planning through visioning, strategic planning, downtown revitalization, planning, pedestrian facilities, and so forth. So in the 3 cities that actually were chosen, or the 4 cities that came about in that study was Woodinville, Kenmore, Camas, Washington, and Bothell. But because Camas is a little further out, we picked 3 cities: Woodinville, Kenmore, and Bothell. And so you all received the email that April 11th, Thursday, is the day that we're going to take that tour. So you put that on your calendars. And so some of you I told to kind of hold that Wednesday before, but so you can take it off your calendars. But Thursday is the day we're going. We did reach out to city managers of Bothell and Kenmore, in addition to the public works director or the planning director over at Woodinville, and confirmed that we'll have some guides to take us around the city. It's a pretty tight schedule, so we'll give you more details later as we move forward, and kind of nail down those times and dates. We'll have lunch that day, some point in time in there. So it'll probably be Woodinville first, and then Kenmore, then Bothell after that, because Kenmore and Bothell are pretty close together. So 2024 comprehensive plan, as you had the opportunity to meet with the planning commission on the land use and housing goals, rezoning. The next step in April will be planning commission's discussion on economic development. So I won't go too far in advance on kind of what's going to happen in May, June, July, and forth, but we'll just go 1 month at a time. So we go slow. So that's going to happen with the comp plan. DRCC, I just signed a contract with Wetland Resources Consultant. So the surveying should take place. We don't know exactly when, but soon. So once that happens, I think subsequent to that will be some community engagement, and then council will have an opportunity to start concept discussions on that. So, and then finally, biennial budget. We had a good presentation from our finance director. One thing I didn't mention about that is KPIs. I think as we get those deliverables from 1961 regarding the 3 to 5 year resource planning, we'll have some idea of, subsequent to that, how staff's going to start planning out new projects, the existing project base. We'll have a good idea of how this contributes to our long-term goals. So I think from that, we'll be able to kind of derive what our KPIs will be. So all this is kind of feeling pretty good about how this is starting to fit together. It's not pretty, but we'll make it work, and then we'll get those KPIs in the budget. But the timelines on these haven't changed much from the last time Laurel presented. The only one that has is that our city manager increased the number of months on the DRCC project to the end of the year. So that's the only one that's changed. And with that, I'm gonna hand it over to our city engineer to cover the CFP project.
Sounds good. I'll just present from here. And just for clarification on DRCC, we are, oh, I'm sorry. Just for clarification on DRCC, we are going through the end of the year, and we're hoping to have a more lockdown concept by then, but it will be an ongoing project beyond the end of this year. So just to make sure that that's clear. Other projects that the capital improvement groups are working on currently, we are working on our NPDS yearly reporting. So that'll be through the end of next month. So we'll have that final report then. It's required to be done every year, but we just need to make sure that that gets done, and it'll be a lift by a couple of our engineers. The pavement preservation program, we are currently in design, bids scheduled for May, with construction being done before the end of October. Additionally, we're getting a pavement assessment so that we can update it based on the current pavement conditions in our roads and update our overall program to fit that into our budget and our capital plan going forward. Safe Streets for All, we are currently just getting an inventory of that. We're looking to sign the assign the grant for that within the next month or so. So that will be coming to you guys for approval. Silvercrest Park, we are going to be opening the bids for that in a week and a half. And so hopefully we'll be coming to you guys to get final approval on the contract so we can start construction on that. Grade C stormwater stormwater maintenance, that is going to be opened on Thursday. So the bids are due on Thursday. We'll be in here and we should be coming to you shortly after that to get the approval for that contract as well. City Hall North Facilities Master Plan, that's kind of dependent on a much larger facilities plan, depending on how much we can put into there at this point in time, whether or not it's worth it, if we're going to be looking at other things, whether or not we need to look at a new maintenance yard, whether or not we need to look at other items. So we don't want to spend a lot of time going and putting into it while there's questions that are coming out of your long-term planning, both from 1961 and the comprehensive plan. Library Park, that one is, this got misaligned. We need to do additional investigations on that one and get additional direction because it's very nebulous about where we're going with this design and what kind of funding we have and where it is all coming from. And so we need to focus in on that and get a final decision on that, specifically from council, on where we would like to go with that in order to make sure that we are accurate in what we're designing. To help out with that, we are getting our on-call wetland consultant on board to do a preliminary delineation of the wetland that is directly adjacent to Library Park so that we can know what kind of space we actually have and how we can use it.
Well, I thought that's the direction we did give, was to do the design so we understand what the drainage situation is and what needs to be done to deal with the drainage. So then we can determine what we have to work with.
Yeah, part of the trick is there's a wetland there that has not been delineated, but
So we
it's
need to
probably
do
grown.
both.
So there's probably, when you look at the grass, a lot of that grass probably cannot be developed. So
Right.
we're trying to figure out exactly how much space is available. Same thing we're doing at DRCC up before we make any design decisions. And people get excited about things they
Yeah.
can put there. We gotta see how much dirt there is we can work with.
Yeah, so I mean, I think we've given direction. We need to do the drainage study and the wetland study to determine what we have to work with. So then we can have a discussion of what we want to do with the space we have to work with.
And
Yeah, remember, we got 3 grants going there. We've got
I
some
understand.
ARPA money for Tot Lot, and then we said, oh, we need to use some county money that we went and got for
Yep.
under drainage, and then there's been talk about down at the state legislature, maybe some money for improving the memorial. So there's a bunch of different funding sources, a bunch of things kind of going around. So Dan's statement is we really need to figure out what we've got and then come back to you and say, okay, well, you got this much money, this much space. What are you really thinking about doing?
Agreed.
All we know so far is that you've said Tot Lot, and we're working on Tot Lot, but there's a lot of other interconnected pieces.
additionally, just to clarify, our thoughts behind this also were to simplify so that we are not sending multiple teams out there, multiple construction crews out there, minimize the impact and the closures on the park. So if we are going to be doing something to the memorial as well as to the underdrain system, as well as the Tot Lot, I don't want to send 3 different contractors out there to do that. I would rather have one contractor do that at once, have one closure of the park, and then it's done.
Okay.
North Creek Trail is kind of in the same boat. We're trying to figure out exact scoping, and we're also running into a few items where we need to get some clarification on ownerships and easements. Once we have clarity on that, then we will proceed with getting with finalizing the grant from the county on that and progress with additional design and replacement of the trail there.
Can I make a comment on that one?
Yes.
So I went to get my haircut on Saturday downtown center, and I parked on the west side of the parking lot. And since it's winter, I could see through the blackberry bushes, and I didn't realize how close the trail is to town center. So since we now have a committee of the chamber, maybe we could work with them on daylighting the portion of North Creek Trail, because I didn't realize how it's really hidden back there with the blackberry bushes along the west side of town center. So.
Thank you. That's a very good idea, Brennan. And then finally, Sweetwater Ranch storm main replacement. We were currently doing investigations. We had our structural group out last week just to check on the stability of the neighboring houses, and we have not gotten the report on that, but we are progressing on those items. We should have a design come back to you for the or at least the preliminary design by June, and then we're hoping to finish construction this year before the rainy season in October.
Councilmember Paddock?
Just two questions. What is entailed in the inventory for the safe streets and roads for all?
Safe streets and roads for all.
I thought you mentioned there was an inventory that was to be.
So the
started.
Safe Streets and Roads for All, we're securing that grant as well as, I think we have another funding source going into that to do an inventory of our sidewalks, crossings, and conflict points between our different modes of transportation. So that's between cars, bikes, pedestrians. And so it's trying to identify projects that we can then use to make our city safer.
And we'll get a look at that, what that inventory looks like.
Yes,
Awesome. Okay.
definitely.
Councilmember Steckler?
And my second.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot you had a second question.
No
Go
worries.
ahead.
I'm gonna forget what the second question was. So to confirm, for the library park, that wetland study has begun, or we've hired the person, or so we haven't done that yet?
We are getting the task order done. We already have AEC, I believe, under contract as our on-call wetland consultant. And so we will be using a task order of that to go to the delineation for us.
Thank you.
Well, I could fill in a little bit on the State Streets for All. So we got a planning grant of about $200,000. That's the first phase. So we use that grant to go do a study and see what needs fixing. And then that qualifies you to go back to the federal government again and get implementation grants. So you remember Frank Reinhardt brought this to us last year and went to a lot of classes and a lot of crazy stuff to get us into that boat. And we got the $200,000. What Dan's reporting, they've just reached out and said, we're ready to give you the grant. Here's a bunch of paperwork, a bunch of hoops to jump through, but we'll come back to you to get that grant adopted per our practice. And that we're also going to find a contractor, a consultant to go and say, okay, do this study for safety related kinds of things throughout the city. And that will spawn other projects. Hopefully we'll get federal money for those as opposed to using our own money for most of those.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that inventory also addresses the ways that we can address infrastructure to reduce speeding, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
I think that's one of the other line items, because we're actually, that Safe Streets and Roads for All line item in there is several different capital projects that all had the same goals. We could send one consultant out at a time to do it. So we can just get one inventory to do all of those items. And so I believe it does also include those items.
And Safe Streets is not a one-time fund, right? It's a revolutionary fund. It's just
That's
constant.
correct.
Yeah.
It's a repeating fund. I don't know how revolutionary it is. Just joking. Councilmember Allison?
So can you just refresh us on the Silvercrest Park situation? You put it out for bid and then nothing qualified and then you have to go through it again. Could you just refresh us on that one?
You want me to
Yeah.
take that one? Because you weren't around for that. So we put it out for bid last year. Remember, it came in for a $300,000 kind of project. It came in like $100,000 high. We looked at that project and said, there's something going on, checked with other cities, and everybody was getting really high bids. We put it out late in the season. So either that was an indicator that every construction company was busy and they said, well, we'll do overtime and do extra if you really want to, and here's a high price. So we pulled that back. We asked you to say, let's just reject all those bids. So we did that. We've done some value engineering on that with Dan arriving and Miriam Sultani's been working on that, going back with the designer and saying, okay, let's change the way that fence is. Maybe that's complicated. Let's change the way we've done these features and try to take out things that might have been expensive. But fundamentally, that grant was really, really high for things just like rock and dirt. It was remarkable. And also for the transport of the materials. So by putting it back out again, we're hoping we're getting a better climate because this is the right time to put together jobs for construction in the regular construction season. And like Dan says, it's out there. We're waiting to get bids next week.
No, yeah, we'll be opening those ones next Thursday.
Yeah, so hopefully we've got our fingers crossed. It's gonna come back within your budget and then we'll bring that to you for a construction award.
Okay, so on the chart, it shows bidding in February, but it's actually bidding in March.
The bid is actually mostly in February. They have 1 week in March.
Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha.
Councilmember Steckler?
And I hate to bring this up again, but I just want to make sure that we're clear. So on the library park, we are moving ahead with a bid for the wetland study, knowing that we still have the design side of these three different projects has not been clarified yet, but we are going to move ahead with the wetland study to determine what can be developed on all these pieces of land. Is that correct?
That's correct.
It's not just the wetland study, though. It's we're gonna need to look at the drainage to see what improvements are needed to deal with the drainage on site, which will also determine how much developable area we have.
I
So,
stand corrected, a wetland and drainage study.
yes,
Yes.
So that when we, because right now we have three projects, two of which the funding has been approved. The third one is half approved. It's not quite finalized yet, but when that one is approved, which it has to be in the next couple of weeks or less, we can move, we'll be able to move ahead because we'll have completed this
Right.
early development study. Okay, great.
Yes.
I just want to clarify that. That's going to happen. That's not on hold.
No, it's not on hold. We're just trying to make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row before I give you a firm schedule for it.
yeah. Well, it's not on hold, but it's on, we can't start looking at what we might do because we don't know what we have to work with.
No, but, well, we can, yeah, that's what I'm trying to understand here is that we can, they're gonna move ahead with determining what we have to build with, right?
Correct.
And then they cannot work with the design side yet until they know what they can build with. They need to know what structurally, what is buildable and what is applicable and.
Partly,
Correct.
but we're gonna have to have a further discussion. What was brought to us, and I believe what we decided, the park board came to us and said one of their recommendations was we improve the tot lot.
Right,
That's what started this discussion. As part of that discussion, we discussed that there's existing grass area and the existing amphitheater that is underutilized by the library because of the drainage. So we talked about and incorporated into our request from the county that the money be used also to assess and deal with the drainage situation. And then our discussion was that may lead us to being able to expand Memorial Park, depending on what we find out from these studies. So that's why we got to do the first part before we can start thinking about what we have to work with.
and what I hear is they're going to move ahead with determining if
Yes.
structurally
Yes,
we can work with that land and that is possible. The tot lot, the first step on the tot lot is determine if the land is,
Correct.
can be developed or
Correct.
will little kids
Correct.
sink into the ground, yeah.
correct.
Don't want to lose any little kids.
Yes. Oh, good. Okay, good.
We good? Okay, Councilmember Duque.
I'm now trying to remember what my, my question was, because I was invested in that, because, yeah, because now I'm just thinking of all the sand pits. Anyways, I wanted to confirm, and I think you already said it in your discussion, or as you were saying back to us, because you said that Safe Streets and Roads for All also is all encompassing with some other CIP.
Yeah.
It's a bunch. That was my question was, this isn't a list of all of our actual
No.
CIP projects. This is just like they're bunched up together.
There's
here.
some bunched up together. I also didn't include some of the smaller projects that we're doing, some of the smaller studies we're doing to help out in the background, and also just smaller items that both us and maintenance are taking on as part of this. So
Internally.
this is the big things that we're going to have to come to you guys for.
Perfect.
To get input, to get approval. But there's still a lot more that we're doing.
That's what I thought, because I was like, wait, but so I wasn't sure about that. And where is the best place, and maybe this is a side conversation, where is the best place to see that full list, including internal things? As a council member, where can I view it? Have a meeting with city manager and
That's a
with Mike
side,
Todd.
that's a side question.
Yep, leave it alone. Got it. Thank you very much. That was my question
You
for
can
this
see
one.
the list in our dreams or in our nightmares, depends on which day it is.
One of the two.
Okay, so Tuesday or Thursday. Got it.
For council, their dreams, for staff, it's nightmares.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Okay, all right. That's the capital.
All right, thank you. So, one comment on Safe Streets for All. In the past 2 years that I've been here, I've had a lot of concerns from residents in the community about ways that we can improve safety across the city. Fortunately, at some point in time, I was able to bring forward this program that at the time, we were about to commence and start. So I think it's really important, and I know that all of you, and we also have a lot of concerns about ways that we can improve safety across, which includes pedestrian flags, for example, too, whether they work or not. So there's a few other things that I'm thinking about that where residents have reached out to me. So this is a big one, I think. It is not to lessen any of the other ones, but this is where I've heard a lot, and I think we've seen that through our surveys as well, how important safety is across the city. So not just from a policing standpoint. That's all I have to say on this one. So the last one, kind of go through this pretty quick. This is just, I'm not gonna speak to any of these. These are ARPA projects. As you know, what we did is made it really simple. Ones that were pending, in progress, or completed. Haven't completed any yet. We have a lot in progress. I think you already have a glimpse of kind of everything we're working on. Some of the things that are pending, staff, we will discuss whether these are things that we will work on this year or not, because we want to be realistic about what we can or can't complete. We've committed to the ones that are in progress, so some of the other things will be questioned moving forward. Some are important to me, like landscaping, 50-foot setbacks, right-of-ways, overgrowth, that kind of thing. That's one that's really important, but and we'll discuss some of the other ones as well. So if there's any other questions on this, I highlighted some of these because these are the ones that where we're gonna need to, we're gonna have at least, whether it's council engagement, like on web development at some point time in the process, or council need to approve these policy manuals, city fee, CY fee study. And then also the police substation will have a ribbon cutting too. And so that'll happen. So if there are any other questions, we can answer any questions regarding these projects.
Councilmember Duque?
So confirming, this isn't all ARPA projects, right? Because we have the parks, the specific ones that the parks had recommended that we had talked about moving forward with. They're not listed here individually.
Yeah, that is correct. And for the AMB board, there's only, right, the park projects. We're talking about water fountains and things.
Fitness equipment, I think.
But some of those projects, I thought we decided, for instance, the parks, we were gonna use the county funding, not the ARPA funding. And the drinking fountains, I think we had a discussion that we were gonna fund that out of something other than ARPA funds.
Oh, okay. I don't recall that. I don't remember that. So that might be yeah, I don't know if anyone else.
No, I have it backwards with the drinking fountains. We decided to pull it out of the county funding and use ARPA. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I
stand
think
corrected.
they are.
Had that one
ARPA
backwards.
funded. It's funny you mentioned that because I deliberately left that off here, but I can add those on.
Yeah, and just more for clarification, if
Yeah.
it was something like, these are the ones that you feel like, you know, because you have pending here versus in progress. So I thought, oh, I wonder if there's some that you haven't even, they're not even pending yet. We haven't. So I thought maybe that's why those ones weren't listed here.
The only thing that's not on here, other than some of the lines that I hid that were not kind of CIP related, or, you know, big projects, where some of them that I didn't put on here, they're not even some of the things I left off of here are not projects. The funding for for example, our Deputy Director of Public Safety. Certain things I did not put on.
Of course.
I put on here things that I felt like that needed, at some point in time, you have to be aware of. And that we may need your input or approval on moving forward. But if you think there are things that we need to edit throughout this entire PowerPoint or update, we're open to suggestions as well. Because this is our first take on this.
I love this. Yeah, I really appreciate it. I wanted to just understand better.
We're trying to find a balance between moving through this quickly, as opposed, and then just hitting on the key things that that we need to emphasize on that actually changed from the prior month. So, but I will look at the parks and AMB board ARPA funded projects.
Yeah, I would say those ones seem
Those are
important
all
to include.
Yeah, a little complicated because embedded in those are the Memorial Park and the tot lot and so forth. So I'll figure out how to put those back on.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate that one. That was my only other question on ARPA, but I have questions on the other items you reported on, but I can circle back if others have specific to this.
Okay.
What do you prefer?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay. I had a question on the first thing that you talked to us about was the Adopt a Street program. I wanted to know, your thoughts on, what should we be sharing with businesses? As opportunities as either like a selling point or not selling point, but like what is the benefit for them? Or how do we, especially because we have members of our chamber, here and they're ones who could most likely, I feel like there's organizations within that would be interested in participating in Adopt a Street, and I didn't see anything in this document that talks about that. So do you have any selling points now? And if not, is that something that Martcom can start thinking through so that when I go to like the next chamber meeting or when we have our next government relations committee, we can have that conversation to talk about?
Good idea. So before, I guess you do communicate, I'll have Marky put together something that we can communicate to the public about what this program is, what it entails.
Yeah, and specifically for businesses.
How to go to contact.
Mhm.
Okay.
That would be helpful, because I think it's really fantastic. And generally, whenever I drive past Adopt a Street signs, and I know we're not, I already spoke to Barb about that it's a long-term potentially interest in that, because she was at a community meeting that we were in. But I generally see businesses are the ones that do Adopt a Street, and it's their staff that work on it. Oh, and then similar to that, do you have, I saw that you have City of Mill Creek staff volunteered for one time. Do you guys have a plan of what that would look like, or who's the head who will be running that volunteer program? Okay, love to help. You know, even though I know it says city staff, happy to help with that. And then, yeah, for whoever the staff one is, right? Like outside of Adopt a Street, because I'm sure we don't want Barb.
Put us on 527, I hear.
Yeah, well, so far it says Dumas to 527, so I think we're good if we just keep to that one. And then you mentioned the letter to sign on. When I was looking at it, I saw that it wasn't just like the mayor of the city, but they had like forever, there were multiple city council members who are.
I was gonna talk about that when I get to the reports.
Fantastic, because that was just my question is, you know, I will pause there. I won't ask anymore until Brian's report. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Steckler.
Great timing. I had a couple questions for you on the Adopt a Street as well. Three things. One, have we talked with our attorney? Well, let me start by saying, love the program. Love it, love it, love it, love it, big time. And I had three comments. Have we talked to our attorney about identification for the city for anybody who does go into the Adopt a Street program, does don our gear that we provide them with and goes out and accidentally gets hit by a car or something? I think that would be very important. Anyone who does.
We have waivers.
Pardon me? We have looked into those, and our attorney has signed off on those. Great.
Correct.
Okay, number two, were we going to do, that sounds like I was going to the same place as my counterpart over here, do signage for the groups that do Adopt a Street? This street, you know, supported by or adopted by, and if we do, cost-wise, it'd be a great time to use very few ARPA funds to purchase a number of these, and then you could just insert the name of the business or the organization in there. So this street, this Mill Creek Street, adopted by, and then insert Raintown Realty or whatever. I think the third comment I was going to make, and this is where I think Melissa was going, this is really important. I would stage this in introducing this first to the businesses through the chamber. First, give them a shot at it. And second, because I think they would, you know, commit to it and commit to making sure that it's, you know, manned. I would also take into account our associations like Rotary, like Kiwanis and Lions, whoever, give them a shot at it. Because it's really hard to wrangle individual citizens. Like it'd be a lot easier with businesses. And I think you've already said it, Melissa, what they want is the signage that says this street adopted by Kiwanis. And I guarantee you, they will keep that street looking beautiful because it's got their name on it. Or Town and Country Markets, it's got their name on it. They'll make sure it looks beautiful. So that was my three recommendations: the legal waiver, make sure nobody gets out without one.
Yep.
And two, the signage, and three, making sure we go to the businesses and associations before you sign up individuals, because that would be the toughest. And I would really recommend staying away from them and go with businesses and associations. Thank you. Great idea. Great idea.
And those are, unless there's any more questions, those are my reports.
Okay. We're gonna do our reports a little different tonight. As I think everyone's aware, we learned shortly after our last meeting that Will Nelson passed away a few days before our last meeting. So I've asked Vince to say a few words, give him an opportunity to say a few words. If anyone else wants to say a few words about Will, and then we'll get to our regular reports. So, Councilmember Cavallari.
Thanks, Mayor. I guess the mayor just broke it to everybody, but a couple of weeks ago, Stephanie reached out to me and said that she hadn't seen Will at any of our last couple of meetings, and we just thought it very uncharacteristic for him to be missing meetings. So I made a couple of inquiries and found out that prior to her inquiry, Mr. Nelson had passed away the week before. His wife said that he had been sick and subsequently hospitalized and simply never recovered from that moment. I thought it only proper to give some notification. A lot of us have known and worked with the man, and he was just a good guy and deserved it. So to hear, for all of you to hear of it. He was an involved and beloved community activist. He dedicated his life to his family, his community, and his country. Mrs. Nelson did advise that they will not be having any memorials or any services. They ask that you respect those wishes and their privacy during their time of grief. And just lastly, on a personal note, Will was a dear friend and a really good man. He was the salt of the earth. He loved this community, and the community loved him. He'll be missed. Thank you.
Anyone else want? Yeah, I echo Vince's comments. I think one of my biggest surprises in my 10 years being on the council is the lack of community engagement. And, I always say that if you don't participate, don't complain. I don't want to say Will complained, but he always provided his insight. And I didn't always agree with his insight and his opinions, but it made me think about my viewpoint and the way I approach things. I appreciated his dedication to the city. I mean, he was, I think, probably about every meeting that I've been at in the council in 10 years. He was engaged and he cared deeply about this community, and he'll be missed. So, yeah. Anyone else? Councilmember Allison?
His prodding made us better. So
Yes.
I'll miss all of his insight, his perspective.
Yes, it did. Okay, to our regular reports, about that letter. I mean, I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other. I've been hounded with these emails asking me to sign on. I'm not sure you'll see there's a long list of mayors and city council members. I don't think there's any city that has had a discussion about whether they should sign on to that letter. I didn't want to sign on to it because the way it's always misleading, because a lot of those mayors are the strong mayors, not weak guys like me. And so when it says mayor of that city, it may be the elected mayor saying, I support this, and I don't want to sign on to the letter as mayor and create the implication that we support it. So I don't have a opposition to signing the letter or not signing it, but before I did, I wanted to run it by you. And if you guys aren't comfortable, I won't sign it. That's my report. Did you have a comment on that?
Yeah, is
Yeah,
that
go
okay?
ahead.
I really appreciate that you think that way. Just FYI, I really do. And so I guess the next step would be to tell you that you should sign it.
Well, does anyone
or
have any objection if I signed it on behalf of the city?
no, is it okay if any individual wants to be included? If
Absolutely.
that's okay. So any one of us who reads it and said, oh, I think my name should be on it too. We should reach out
Let
to
me know
Martin.
by tomorrow morning.
Let you know
Yep,
specifically.
so I will convey that they can put down my name, and I could just say that the Mill Creek City Council signs on as rather than me, that might be better.
I thought a lot of us had. I thought I had already. They sent out something. I know that I responded about
Okay,
3 weeks ago.
I'll take
But
care of
I'm
it.
on board.
I'll take care of it and figure it out.
I would support you signing it from
Okay.
the full council.
Yes, me too as well. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Cavallari, any report tonight?
No report, Mayor. Thank you.
Councilmember Steckler?
No report.
Where are we? Councilmember Allison?
No report from me either. Thanks.
Councilmember Duque?
The chair of the Parks and Rec spoke already at the beginning, so I have no report. They're doing fantastic things. I love all the emails I get from all of the Parks and Rec board members going out individually to the parks and taking photos and keeping an eye on what's going on. We have we're very lucky to have such engaged residents who care about the park system. And then the other thing I usually report on is the chamber, and we had that today. So have a good night.
Councilmember Paddock.
No report.
Audience communication, Ms. Heidel, name and city of residence, if you'd like to identify that.
Barb Heidel, Mill Creek. Before I go into my little speech thing, I would like to make a couple comments about the Adopt a Street program. It's basically to be a 6-month pilot. And we have talked a bunch about signage because I've researched cities around here. But we want to make sure that there's a firm commitment. So we're doing a 6-month thing to iron out any issues that we have with this brand new program that we've never done before. So we have talked about the signage. Funding, of course, we haven't been able to get to that point because we're waiting for the 6-month point to see if it really takes a hold in the city. The first people I believe that Jody and Scott were notifying were sponsors of the city. Those were the first people. And then it was going out however, what way they wanted it to go out. I know it's going out in the guide, recreation guide, and it's going out, that goes out, I believe, the beginning of March. And other ways it's going out, social media and everything, but I knew the sponsors were first. Okay, other than I must qualify, I already have one besides the city, because I've been talking with this person since National Trails Day in June, I believe, to get one company already on board. They're going to be my beginning company, hopefully next week. It's only because the person I'm communicating with has jury duty this week. So I'm determined to wait till she's done with jury duty, since she and I have been coordinating a lot. The idea of doing it to the businesses, that's awesome. I'd have to speak to Scott and Jody how they are communicating with everyone, because I'm just volunteer. Anyway, thank you, Mayor. I wish to say thank you to the city manager for supporting the Adopt a Street program. He's been very encouraging for me, and to say, yes, we're going to be doing this, because I've been very frustrated how slow government works. I appreciate very much of what he's been doing to keep this going. I also want to say a very huge thank you to Scott and Jody. They've spent a great deal of time to improve upon my initial idea, doing all the PR, rewriting things that I write to make it sound better, and encouraging me to hang in there over these months to get this program finally off the ground. And I know part of it's multifaceted why I'm doing this. I know there are council members that want to have our city look beautiful. I know that it's also a project that I am doing for National Night Out for the police department, and my own passion to keep our city looking nice. So I want to thank both of Scott and Jody so much for working, doing a lot of the work that I'm not able to do, and spending some of their time to get it all packaged up for everyone. So thank you.
Thank you, Barb. Anyone else like to address the council? Mr. Elwin.
Greg Elwin, Vine Maple, Mill Creek. Something that the city manager mentioned, he's talking about the tour in April with the 1961 project to Bothell, Kenmore, and Woodinville. Reminded me that I forgot to mention an event we're having on March 14th, which is a joint chamber breakfast at Tapped out at the farm. It's 8 a.m. to 8 a.m. to 9:30. And the cool part about it is it's the Bothell Kenmore Chamber of Commerce, the Woodinville Chamber of Commerce, and the Mill Creek Chamber of Commerce are the 3 joint sponsors. So kind of ties together with what's going on in April. So, and I'm sad to hear about passing a will. Like many of us, didn't always agree, but it was thought provoking. He was critical of me at times, and he praised me at times, and so I appreciated his honesty. And so it's sad to hear that, but you know, we've lost another great fixture in the community. So I'm sad about that. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Anyone else like to address the council? Anyone online? Okay, we will be recessing shortly to discuss the performance of a public employee pursuant to RCW 42.30.110 subsection 1G. I hope we're not going to need this amount of time, but could we have a motion to extend the regular meeting to 10 just in case? We don't have to use it. Okay, it's 9:30.
A motion to extend to 9:30.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, abstentions? Okay. So we will recess into executive session at 7:55. I will note for the record when we come out of executive session, the time that Mayor Pro Tem joined us via Zoom. And action may or may not be taken at the conclusion of the executive session. So with that, we will be in recess beginning at 7:56 PM. Adrian. Yo, Adrian. Is it back on? Okay, we will be in executive session for 45 minutes and we'll now send the extensions as necessary.
At 8:45, the council extended the executive session to 9:15. Okay, Mayor, your mic is unmuted now.
Okay, can we have a motion to extend the regular meeting till 10 o'clock, please?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The regular meeting is extended till 10 o'clock, and our executive session will be extended to 9:30.
and change and a go-do. God, I just got a little bit of a shiver on. Oh. You want to sit out there, Sean?
Are you coming, Sean?
Yes. You can be our audience.
5.3.4.
I was throwing something away. God, how much
Okay,
I'm tired. Yeah.
yeah. So the council has concluded its executive session at 9:29 PM. Before we finish the meeting, we're waiting. Are we logged out of that room out there?
I'm on here.
I know we see, and to let the record reflect that, Adrian, that Deputy Mayor joined the executive session when we commenced at whatever time that was that we announced earlier, and she is now with us by Zoom for the regular meeting. So we're back in our regular session. Are there any motions that anyone wants to make?
Mayor, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to direct the city attorney to prepare a draft resolution for awarding the city manager a merit award in the amount equal to 5% of the city manager's base salary from 2023 pursuant to section 5.3 of the city manager's employee contract.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Would you like to speak to your motion?
If I could speak for just a second, I think we've been at this for several days now in exec session. We've read the drafts. We've lived through the last couple of years of working with the city manager, and I have to say, it's not often that we come to the dais with a resolution for a percentage increase as bonus. And but this case is warranted, and I can speak to countless successes from labor contracts to hiring, staffing, on and on. This city manager seems to be doing the right things, and I happily make this motion. Thanks.
Any other comments?
Just a point of clarification, was it 2024, I believe? Were you looking for clarification on the date or the year?
It's based on his 2023 contract.
Okay, I just heard whispering behind.
It's based on a 2023 base salary for the year being reviewed. Councilmember Allison, did you? Mayor Pro Tem, did you want to say anything?
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, everyone, that I'm sick and can't be there tonight in person. I just want to add, I agree with Councilmember Cavallari, and we've been having our discussions the past couple of weeks, and there's been so much improvement with where the city is going, the direction the city is going, the staff morale, the labor contracts, the projects starting to move forward. There's just been so much improvement in 2023, and it's nice to be in this place. So I'm happy to support the motion.
Yeah, I'll speak to the motion as well. It's been a good year, Martin. You've done a good job leading us. You know, part of the reason why we started the retreats and doing them annually is so we have a gauge to end goals and priorities to evaluate you against. And we just completed that review and concluded that you're meeting and in some respects exceeding what we set out for. In terms of benefit conferred to the city, I think the best way to summarize that is you're universally getting positive reviews from the staff you lead, from the council, and from the community, as we saw from the study results, and you're helping guide us through some important decisions we have to make, whether it's what we do with the DRCC property, what we do with our comprehensive plan and sub area, and the strategic plan that we have underway. These are important things for the city. And I don't think without your leadership, we would be moving forward. We'd probably be continuing to chase our tails. And finally, we're fortunate that we're in a position, as we heard from our presentation earlier tonight, with the financial position of the city. You've helped us be good stewards of the public dollars. So the city has the financial resources in which to make this award. So I will gladly and fully support this motion. Any other comments? If there's no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes unanimously 7-0. And we have nothing further on our agenda. So with that, we will be adjourned. Oh, go
Just
ahead.
one quick question,
Yeah.
just for clarification for the resolution. Do you want that to be effective January 1st of 2024?
It's not an adjustment in the salary. It's just a merit award.
Oh, it's a bonus.
It's a merit award, yeah, pursuant to section 5.3 of the contract, not an adjustment to the base salary.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Okay. So with no further business on our agenda, we will adjourn at 9:36 PM.
Feel better, Steph.
Thank you.